Hey guys, Swim here, and welcome to my deck guide for my 2 strength Sergeant deck. Now, the premise of this deck is quite simple. Basically, you full to stout early, buffing all of your units by 1 point. You operator onto a K20 Sergeant. Operator gives you a base copy of the unit, so Operator will give you a 3 strength K20 Sergeant, which will effectively be a 2 strength Sergeant, because all of your 2 strength cards are now 3 strength. So you use this new Sergeant that's at base value to buff up these a single point, and then the rest of your Sergeants take it away from there, basically ending up with all of these cards that you see here, ending the game being at 7 strength, which is of course very powerful when 7 strength Reaver Scouts and 7 strength Trebuchets are introduced. The deck uses consistency tools to achieve the combo, such as Alz's Double Cross and Reinforcement onto Operator, Avalak to increase your draws, and K20 Sergeants being pulled out by Reaver Scouts as well. Now, before I proceed further, I'd like to take a moment to say you should check out the Gwent DB guide in the description of this, not only if you're interested in the guide itself and what it has to offer, but because it might have a much more updated version of this list. This is a very early version, which isn't to say that I'm at all dissatisfied with it. In fact, I really like it, the vast majority of the slots, and I'm really happy with them. But I might end up changing a card or two, and the Gwent DB guide is going to remain updated. One more thing about going to the Gwent DB guide is you'll be able to see budget versions of this deck. You'll be able to see crafting orders and card replacements if you don't have all the gold and silver cards, as well as in-depth explanations about all of the card choices and gameplay guide. So naturally, what you're gonna want. Okay, so basically the idea behind all these cards. So Trebuchets, obviously, they're very powerful when they get buffed by K20 Sergeants, who now, of course, have the Crewman tag. So you have the Crewmans on the Sergeants, you have the Crewmans on the Blue Stripe Scout, and these Trebuchets come out at very, very high value lacerates. Typically, later on, you'll see they're 7 strength most of the time. K20 Sergeants, this one's self-explanatory. Play these out early, and just reap your benefits from that later. Now, this one is going to confuse a lot of people. The 1 Blue Stripes Commando. The 1 Blue Stripes Commando is... It seems weird that I don't run more, but at the same time, they get blocked by Savage Bear really harshly. And beyond that, they directly conflict with Reaver Scouts and the rest of the bronze composition of the list. So given the fact that we are basically in a bear meta and bears kind of counter these cards, they run as a one-off. Even in the bear matchup, you will be able to get this out pretty reliably, although it might be in a later round. Because, of course, Savage Bears, if you didn't know, prevent those commandos from coming out of your deck, because, of course, the bear hits it, and it comes out at effectively a different amount of strength. But you'll be able to get this out often in later rounds in the Skellige matchup. If you don't have a window to get it out early, you can get it out in a later round by, playing something before they play a bear in a later round, or even with a Blue Stripe Scout. Once it's buffed up to 6 strength, your Blue Stripe Scout can pull it out, and it doesn't get blocked by bear because it has armor on deploy. Temerian Infantryman, very solid finisher for this list, very common in K20 Sergeant list. Try to use these in later rounds if at all possible, and they're pretty much Witchers here. They come out at 7 points each, which is very strong. You got your Blue Stripe Scout, same reason as you always have these cards. Clear weather, they are crewmen, they're pretty great. And then here we have Cow. Now, I'm not 100% certain on Cow's addition to this list, but at the same time, when this card's body is almost guaranteed to be 7 strength, you're looking at a very, very different card. This card comes out at 7 points. You do not have ways of triggering it on your own, although playing it into bears, which you might have noticed are pretty common on ladder right now. And additionally, pulling it into weather is always good, and at a worst case scenario, it still provides the chort and can still be played as a bleeding tools to get value later. And you've got the rest of the, you got the Reaver Scouts pulling these out. And again, of course, the Reaver Scouts will get buffed to 7. These cards are absurd at 7 strength. Typical round 3 goes like, I play a Trebuchet at 7 strength, hitting, maybe 1 or 2 units only, but it still comes out at 10 or 13 points in that case. I play a Reaver Scout at 7, taking another Trebuchet at 7. You see where that's going. The numbers start stacking up really, really ridiculously, even when you don't have a lot of targets for the Trebuchets to hit. Got your operator, crux of the strategy. Got Death Mold in this case. The card is cuttable, although at the same time, given the fact that he is getting buffed up by your combo and eventually gets to, you know, 5, 6, 7 strength, the card's pretty great. I'm really not in a hurry to get rid of this card. Then you've got your reinforcements and Alzur's Double Cross for your consistency tools for operator. Some of the silver package is a little weird. I might want to change some things because Alzur's Double Cross, if you already have the operator, in terms of a later round, will be pulling you a random unit from your deck, which honestly isn't terrible, but might still want to switch that. Then you've got your Taller. Taller draws... Basically, it's your spy. You play it early. It can thin through your deck a little bit. It, of course, is a great tool to slow down the pace of the round if you find yourself ahead, but not ahead enough to pass. He's your guy. You'll note he's the first target getting pulled by Alzur's Double Cross in this case, and then Operator. It generally ends up fine. Usually, you hope to draw your Operator via drawing either Operator, Reinforcement, or Alzur's Double Cross and Taller. If you draw Alzur's Double Cross but not Taller, then yeah, it is true that the Taller blocks the Operator, but you can still Alzur's Double Cross into Taller and try to draw Operator out that way. Usually playing the 13 strength Taller is not a big deal here. And lastly, you get into the gold slots. Just pretty normal Northern Realms golds. We've got our Philippa, really high power unit. Offers some control possibilities. Karametz, pretty versatile, although at the same time you are going to be using her for Thunderbolt Potion a good majority of the time. You can, in some cases, use Epidemic or use Quensign, but for the most part, you are going to be using her as a 17-point play on top of a Thunderbolt Potion. There's nothing wrong with that. The card is pretty solid. Avalak, which looks a little conflicting with the Temerian Infantrymen. I actually play in a specific way, mulliganing away Infantrymen in certain hand states. I'll show you that when we get to the gameplay section of this video. But basically, he increases your consistency. I think he's a solid addition to the list. And then we've got Renew. Renew is just a very solid card in general. In terms of the composition of the list, I'm very, very happy with my bronzes, and there's certain things I might tweak with silvers and golds. But anyway, that's the list. Let's take it to some games and see how it plays out. So we've queued into Dunkoro. A friend of mine who we know for a fact is actually playing the same exact deck we are, so this should be interesting. I actually told him about this deck right before this match. What were the odds? Okay. So, we have Infantryman we want to get rid of. How do you play this matchup? He's using a different variant. He should be using one which uses Witchers instead. No Avalak. See how this goes. Won't need the scout in this matchup whatsoever. Hand looks pretty good here. There's the coin flip. Thaler to draw into Operator. There's 3 copies of Operator in our deck we can draw into. Off of Operator, Alzur's Double Cross, or Reinforcement, all of which can pull out Operator. We can open with Full Test here.
Onward!
He'll always just Full Test us back. Every single time.
Crush those vermin!
Mean they've not forgotten me. That's
We're
nice.
not drawing into Operator. And since we had to go first, that means we're gonna lose the round to 1 card down. Okay, that's fine. Let's pull out our Sergeant here. We're gonna have to give up this round kind of early. We should see his Operator here, possibly his own Thaler. Wow. Really? But that's super surprising. He's just giving it to me. Okay. So we can take it with Death Mold. And I could have taken it with Infantryman too if I had it, but honestly, taking it with Death Mold is better anyway.
Death to the enemy!
Good. So this is a large utility of this one of Blue Stripes Commando, allowing my Death Mold to be able to take that. Very, very great. So we ended up drawing into that operator. Here we go. So we're basically good to go at this point. We kind of have too many units that we want to pull with scouts. Let's go ahead and actually kick a trebuchet here, I think. Okay. We have the Elzer's double cross for who knows what at this point. So we can go ahead and operator. Interestingly enough, operator gives him 1 too. It's our proactive option. What if we take it immediately to round 3 instead of operating? It's possible I could give him a Reaver Scout that's completely dead to him. At the same time, I'm playing the cow variant. The cow variant makes me want to play into the round. I'll operator here. So, we give both of us a 3 strength K20 Sergeant. It's a completely symmetrical play in this matchup, of course. And now we both have a lot of K20 Sergeants. I'm sure he considered giving me like a Reaver Scout or something there. But I benefit from row stacking more than him, since the cow hurts his ability to actually trebuchet me properly. Spread these sergeants a bit. I only have the cow if I ADC into it anyway, which is reasonably low odds. He's gonna do the same exact thing. He's gonna put one in the siege row too. Jesus. What is this matchup? Is it time to Philippa yet? Philippa is very powerful here because she completely disrupts his card's strength and thus their ability to actually pick up these buffs more. Is it possible that Trebuchet is better given that? Not yet. Not yet, no.
Stand and fight.
You one of us or not?
I killed for less.
Okay, so it's Philippa time now. He's played sufficient units that I just want to damage his units. The question is, what do I start on? Do I start on a 6 or do I start on the operator? I should probably start on a 6, although if it bounces back to it immediately, I could lose up to 2 value. I'll start on a 6. Hopefully it'll hit. Oh, thank God. Great, perfect. So it hit all of his units, which means they're not getting buffed anymore by his 6 strength sergeants. Now, if he has Philippa here, he'll do the same exact thing. This is the perfect moment to do it. I don't think he would wait. So he doesn't have Philippa. And as you can see, it puts them out of buff range there.
Stand and fight.
So we'll Trebuchet here now. And again, you want to Trebuchet such that you disrupt his flow. Remove these 8 strength as targets. Should have one more. He Trebuchets my row. Gets pretty good value off of that. God, I'd really like to find that prize-winning cow. It's too early, though. I'll just have to go back to playing another sergeant. This creates another pocket at which I can put another trebuchet and slam for 4 on the entire row. It's pretty good. Okay. So, he does the same thing on the melee row. Ends up slamming down my units. Locking me out of the possibility of finding more trebuchets there. Interesting. There's obviously no renew possibility yet. That's very interesting. Okay. Well, Alza's double cross, see what we get. Finds a Temerian infantryman to pull into the last row. The fact that we don't have a Reaver Scout target's really bad here. He targeted our Trebuchet, and we don't have another way to pull them out. He can stay ahead of us just by playing more Trebuchets here, presumably. Possibly by playing his own 8 strength infantryman here.
Bloody non-humans.
It's not going to stay ahead of us. We could pass at this point. We generate card advantage, and presumably we will have a Trebuchet to snipe his with later. Question is, does he run Renew? Right, there's his Witchers. So, there's one gold card in both graveyards right now, and that's Philippa. He's got the first play to res the Philippa, but he would never do so on an empty board, and he has to go first. Which means we have the advantage in terms of getting a Philippa off. 2 Reaver Scouts. 1 Blue Stripe Scout. Ah, this is a weird hand. I think I have to kick one of these Reaver Scouts. Okay, good.
With pleasure.
So he's got the Dandelion. He can use them on the Temerian infantrymen. Dandelion's in his variant, not on mine. I will Avalak. The Avalak will hurt him.
Observe a master
So
in
if
action.
the Avalak makes him draw into cards he doesn't want to draw into, we could just win the game off that. Okay. We would like to have drawn a Reaver Scout there. It's a little unfortunate that we didn't. No Epidemic on that Kara, specifically because of the Dandelion. We'll renew here.
I'll never be imprisoned again.
So we end up renewing to just get a 16-point play, hoping that he ends up with a completely dead renew at this point. We could have carried for an 8 strength Epidemic, but we might as well just get a 12-point Thunderbolt Potion at that point. Interestingly enough, you'll note there is a pretty decent likelihood that he has his own Philippa at this point, which means we're going to get value out of our prize winning cow in that way. Let's go ahead and get this cow down. So if he has Philippa, the cow is completely nullifying its value.
But we're broke
In
as
fact, he
shit
almost
meddlers.
can't play Philippa. In addition, the cow reduces the value on any of his trebuchets hitting me in this row. I don't know, man. When cow becomes 8 strength instead of 2, it becomes a much better card. So there's his dead renew. Perfect. So we have at this point our own Trebuchet. Let's go ahead and slam his melee around. So let's see that Philippa. I mean, the odds of him having Philippa here are pretty high, and it could just give us a few shorts. So that shows him 3 cards in deck, which means his last card is his last gold. We will get that 10-point short out of his Trebuchet, which is hugely valuable, of course. And our play here will be actually Kara for Thunderbolt Potion on these, specifically so that our cow maintains a higher value for his Philippa, so that it tanks more shots.
Not too shabby. Not shabby at all.
Perfect. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty funny that we get into him. Okay, let's go next game. Okay, here we have a Bran player. Neat. And our hand is pretty solid. We've got most of what you kind of want for this deck. No blacklist targets here. There's no Temerian Infantryman or a Commando. When you draw the Avalak, I personally, if you're playing the Avalak, I personally get rid of the Temerian Infantrymen from hand, which I'm sure I'll do as soon as I start blacklisting. Bran makes me think... makes me think Axeman, which makes me think Scouts for weather clear, although at the same time you can only gain so much value out of clearing the weather from Axemen, as they always have more to play. But we also have trebuchets, which allow us to potentially snipe off axemen before they actually get big. Honestly, this hand is basically perfect. This hand is literally perfect. I'm just gonna keep this hand. There's no card that we really don't want here. Go ahead and Volt Dist. He might give us this round early. What's presumably gonna happen is he's gonna, since we lost the coin flip, force us to go 2 cards down. Plays the bear instead. Okay. Could Avalak here. Could also Volt Dist the Sergeant. No reason not to open with Full Testing the Sergeant first. Okay. Give him a useless K20 Sergeant. 2 bears. Now we could fill up by that. There's an additional consideration to... Philipping is really not bad. You're getting 13 points out of a gold and denying these. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up with these.
I'll never be imprisoned again.
Losing a little bit of power potential on that Philippa. I'm sacrificing 3 points because I could have gotten 3 more points if it hits for more value. But ultimately, killing 2 decently high value targets is always going to be pretty great. So he's going to go ahead and brand here. He sacrificed a lot of his tempo. He could have tried to out-tempo us early, but we can stay ahead of his brand pretty easily. Brand typically discards 2 raiders and a Morkvarg. Generally. Queensguard. Okay. So he's running a Queensguard deck in this case. That's fine. And we have the perfect tools to slow it down. K20 Sergeant is an amazing slow tool in this deck. We're going to go ahead and put 2 of them in the siege row. We want to be able to trebuchet between them and slam his melee row out for the Queensguards. Running Ceres. I think Ceres is probably pretty weak in Queensguards, personally. I honestly think Queensguards is a very underrated archetype, but I wouldn't really run Ceres in them. So we do have access to whatever we want out of reinforcements, which is pretty great. I can kill the bear with 2 trebuchets, but we'd like to wait until he plays the Queensguards as well. So we'll just play another Sergeant out here. We're ready for him to play his, once he plays his Queensguards, we will go full force with 2 trebuchets. And honestly, the odds of us... Ooh. Great. Interesting. The odds of us at this point using reinforcement for Thaler are super high. Let's go ahead and get that Thaler out, I think. Is there a call to play Scout first? No, there is not. There's no call to play Scout first. We could Avalak instead as well. Better to Thaler earlier. Let's go ahead and get this out. We're obviously going to be slamming his melee row with our trebuchets. We end up drawing the Temerian infantryman here. And we're happy that we didn't happen to have one of these in our hand already, because those shows off of Thaler were pretty nightmarish otherwise.
Pansy.
Okay. So he is ready to be absolutely destroyed by this trebuchet. We are ready to basically just slam him twice with them. Is it better instead to go for a sergeant, though? It might be. And we're always able to beat him in a single card. There's a possibility that he's not aware of that. Let's go for one more sergeant first. Okay. They'll be able to buff the Reaver Scout before the bear is able to hit it, which is great for us, because of course we don't want the bear. And he might underestimate our point potential here. We'll be staying ahead of him for the rest of this round, but we don't need to since we have the Thaler, and if he passes, we take it in a single card easily with our Trebuchet. The Trebuchet, of course, dealing an absolutely massive amount of damage to his board. So let's go ahead and smash. So, insane point swing there. Here's that hover over. See him looking at that Trebuchet. Ah, what's up? Very powerful card once it starts getting buffed up by the K20 Sergeants. And we will be staying ahead of him for the rest of this round. Absolutely. We will win this round on even cards. That's the plan. We've got another Trebuchet to smash his melee row again, force him to res those Queen's Guards, or possibly we could leave them for now. Okay. So he's giving the Trebuchet more power, but at the same time, he will always res the Queen's Guards again, demanding even more power from the Trebuchet. At this point, we might actually like to play out our infantrymen, oddly enough. Or we could just play Avalak without doing so. This is a weird one. I could see a reason to actually forsake the Trebuchet as possibilities. And instead go for the last Kid Winnie Sergeant. Enabling him to be able to res both of these Queen's Guards again really doesn't do me any good. And I could play the infantryman out instead. I'm going to do something kind of weird. I'm going to Avalak here instead. This Avalak is probably going to draw me one infantryman. Okay, it didn't. It drew me a commando instead, which is effectively the same thing. It's a dead card. But the point is, you Avalak with a high chance of drawing a dead card for the purposes of effectively mulliganing away later. I want to Avalak here to try to push this round. And I really would have liked to draw some kind of Trebuchet or Sergeant to assist that.
That is your brilliant move, truly.
Now, ooh, there it goes. It's a pretty good play. I might be inclined to Trebuchet his back row now. I mean, Trebucheting his melee row just heals this Queen's Guard up, whereas Trebucheting his back row is actually pretty nice. If I play cow here, the Chort's Brave probably won't go off right. Because the bear will hit it after the Chort checks for Brave. It'll be a tie according to the Brave, I think. I'd really like to stay ahead of him though. Kind of awkward. If we want to win this round, we need to find that last Trebuchet. Hitting this bear is a good way of doing that. But the bear is not hurting us in terms of our cow. This is a really awkward position to be put in. Okay. Go ahead and smash his back row. We'd really, really just like to apply more pressure here. Our hand's not great though. He should in theory have a hard time pushing this round. And it's not like the cow is useless either. The bear damaging the cow makes it pretty good right off the bat. So he plays the Queen's Guards there. And he is just hoping that we don't have a way to get our third Trebuchet. Luckily we don't. I mean, luckily for him we don't. But that is a really, really ballsy move. I mean, if we have a third Trebuchet, we literally just smash that row. Man, that's a real shame we don't. Don't want to commit anything too valuable in this case. But at the same time, we'd like to stay ahead of him. I mean, his hand has to be looking even more awkward than ours. I'm going to go ahead and zap. In this case, probably the Thaler. Well, we forced out the Kjolmar. And at this point, we can actually Chort for Brave, which puts us at a 5 and a 9. I don't know. The Brave doesn't go off on this. We want to force him to be able to have to play the Lord of Unvik before getting out of this round. Playing the cow out here isn't really that useful. He's obviously ready to push for this round because he has the Hjalmar. So we'll just go ahead and play slowly, force him to kill that Lord of Unvik before we give him the round. And in round 3, he's going to have the resummon on the Queen's Guards, and we're going to have the Temurian infantrymen coming out at the same time for basically the same amount of value. Hopefully we'll draw that last Kid 20 Sergeant.
All together! Give them no rest, no reprieve!
I mean, the cow comes out at high value. He's 31 above us. Well, he's 30 above us, but we need 31 to take it. The cow comes out at high value. Unfortunately, he only has 1 bear. If he had 2 bears, that cow would be really, really high value. And it's a real shame we don't have our 3rd scout or our 3rd trebuchet or anything here. Cow comes out at 5 plus 9, which is 14. We'd have to give our win condition to take this round. We'll give it to him. It's a shame we only made him waste 1 Freya. Man, this is going to be a hard game to win at this point. Giving Queen's Guards round 1 without forcing them to go at least like 2 cards down or something is really awkward. And yeah, our draws are going to be bad. We have to kick the Temurian infantryman at this point because it's the better blacklist. Guarantees we don't get the last infantryman. This commando ends up screwing us a little. If he instant passes, we've got the prize winning cow for the next round, but it's Queen's Guards. Presumably they'll try to stay ahead of us. They want to get use out of the Queen's Guards in all 3 rounds. So we will just go ahead and play out a Key 20 Sergeant into this back row here. Very valuable play. Do you have a way to kill this too? Really? It's probably... that's kind of ridiculous. If he has a way to kill this one too, we just lose to Queen's Guards. The cow doesn't get the Schwartz Brave tag here. Comes out as a 6, summoning a 6. Need to be more behind. Not much more, but more behind. And I have no choice but to wait on these infantrymen as they are basically my round 3 win condition. We'll simply be playing the Blue Stripes commando out here.
Nice mess you've got here.
Onward!
Go ahead and get this cow down. Truck comes out with the full Brave tag.
We serve her
But he's going to
as
be
virgin
forcing out
mother and
more than we
queen.
can handle here.
Pansy.
And he'll have one last res for those Queen's Guards that we're not going to be able to deal with. We can't take this round, but it's not going to be enough.
Humans.
Woof. Yeah, the Queen's Guards just put out more power than we were able to get. Almost not forced out our infantrymen, but they got forced out. It's pretty unfortunate. Now we are going to start with the 5 strength turret. It should be 6, but the bear just smacks it from the grave. So this 5 strength thing kills it, and he's 1 card up on us. And presumably he will have a Freya for his last Shield Maidens. Although in theory he might not. Renew finds... I mean, on the first draw, I'm looking for what? What's my win condition? I don't really have one. I mean, this Renew finds the Avalek, but he's always going to have... He's always going to have better target. His draws must have been bad. We didn't probably deserve to win that game, but... Ooh, that was pretty close. Man. Okay, great. Wow. Cow showing a bit of value in that game. that's pretty good. Just when that card comes out at 7 value, it becomes really, really scary, really fast. Even pretty mediocre cards, when you give them like +3 points, become very, very good. And it coming out at +5 points, it's pretty great. So we get into our last game here. We happen to be against Scoia'tael as well. Look at that. This is probably that one of those new lists people have been running. Just kind of mid-rangey Scoia'tael. Not trying to do one thing too specific. Could be dwarfs as well. Okay, so operator, we've got all of our tools here. In fact, we kind of have too many tools. We could kick the operator so we get him back with the ADC. That's what we end up doing in most scenarios like this. But first, let's get to our blacklists. Kick the scout first to blacklist it. Kick the commander because we don't want it. And yeah, wow. In this specific case, because we have the infantryman, we actually might not be able to kick the operator for risk of drawing more infantrymen. It'd be really bad if we did. And it's fine having a hand like this. We still have everything this hand needs. Okay. He won the coin flip, so let's go ahead and have him play first. Play the Fultist. First, as always, play the operator on the sergeant. You know the drill. The first, like, 2 or 3 turns of this deck are very, very cookie cutter. Starts to branch out from there a little bit.
Fine. If my coin's ranked to ye, go kiss a dog neath its tail.
Okay. So it's not a threat passively. A reason to kill it. Just play Fultist, turn 1 as usual. A very typical Fultist. It would have to be a pretty strange scenario. Okay, and let's go ahead and Philippa this. As mentioned, Philippa will deal 9 damage to the first target and 6 to the second, so it kills both of those perfectly, bouncing between them. 5-3-1 for the 9 and 4-2 for the 6. What a perfect card. This card, I don't know why, but I really, the feel of just being able to do that is really great. I'm a big fan of Philippa. Okay, so very possibly Moran. Let's go ahead and play the operator out. If it is Moran, interestingly enough, you'll note that the operator is now at 5 points, which means all he's accomplished is letting it get buffed back. Because now, of course, we'll play the sergeant buffing to 4, we'll play the sergeant buffing to 5, and any further sergeants we play off of the back of these Reaver Scouts will, of course, be buffing our operator back for some of the health that he lost. Okay. Let's just go ahead and do that. Play in the siege row here. We've got the reinforcements to find us a trebuchet if we end up wanting one. Presumably he will be buffing a Brienne in hand. Okay, there's his own sergeant. Fine with that. Go ahead and play another sergeant of our own. Now, he does play a lot of AoE removal in Scoia'tael because of the double defense trappers, so we don't want to put more than 3 units on a single row. Generally, row stacking is fine in the meta right now. You can lose points against Coral, although many people have cut Coral. But for the most part, there's pretty few matchups. This is one such matchup where the opponent can actually punish you for row stacking. Okay, let's just go ahead and pull out more of these cards while they still buff each other. So we play one more on the melee row, buffing all of my 5s before these get nuked down to 3 strength. And as you saw in the last game, you can disrupt this combo by reducing the points before all the sergeants are played. Okay, so he's dragging a few of his own units. He's allowing me to trebuchet him for a pretty decent chunk here, but let's go ahead and get my last sergeant out first. Interesting. Okay,
But
let's
we're
go ahead and get the
broke as
last sergeant out
shit
first.
peddlers.
Putting it next to this one. So we have created, in this case, 2 pockets. As you can see, we have a really large amount of points. We've created 2 pockets between these 2 sergeants, between these 2, where we can play trebuchets for 4 value lacerates in addition to their 7 strength bodies, which is very powerful. We have a guaranteed trebuchet off the reinforcement if we want it. Can also be used for death mold or even possibly prize winning cow, which hilariously enough can in some ways counter trapper since you can play it right before the fireball trap goes off. Of course, only when the cow comes out at much more than 2 strength.
There. Now let them dangle.
There's a brain. Okay. So he's asserting a lot of dominance by playing that brain. Getting her out nice and early. Interesting. We'd really love to slam that trebuchet here, so we are just going to go ahead and do exactly that. We're going to reinforcements into this trebuchet, putting it in this pocket, making 7 points already, and then 12 more off of here. Total swing of 19 points. Pretty good for a bronze card. Pretty great. And he has just such a hard time of staying ahead of this. And of course, we did reduce the Morin so she's not blocking the Scorch anymore, but we're okay doing that because the Brain is blocking the Scorch now. Not that we're particularly afraid of Scorch regardless. Okay, and we forced him out of the round on even cards. Pretty fantastic. Let's go ahead and get out here. There was a consideration to play Tala there. We can play it in round 2 and achieve basically the same thing. Okay, we will of course go ahead and kick off this Temerian infantryman since we plan to resummon them later. We don't want to play them individually from hand. Interesting. So we can renew for his Zoltan or our Philippa. I like the idea of funding Philippa. Prize winning cow off of Taller would actually be quite nice. I would not mind finding a prize-winning cow here. We whiff it, we find the Reaver Scout. Now you'll notice our hand is basically perfect. We've got the Temerian Infantrymen coming out at 7. We could actually push this round, interestingly enough, because we have the Taller specifically blocking that Scorch. We could be inclined to go ahead and play this out, or we could care for Epidemic. The fact that he plays it when he's obviously being bled means that I'm more inclined to believe it's a sapper more so than a to reveal. It would be a weird play to play a to reveal in that position. Let's go ahead and play out our infantrymen here. This might be a mistake. It might be a mistake committing to this round. We could have passed as well. I'm probably too afraid of a Scorch that'll never come. Interesting. Okay, we'll go ahead and play this Alzur's double cross out. See what we happen to get. We get the worst thing possible, which is our other Trebuchet. Very, very unfortunate. That was going to be our Reaver Scout target. The other 4 units on our deck all would have been good targets for that. That's fine. So, it's not a sapper. It is, in fact, a to reveal, offering 10 points in this case, putting him 7 below me.
Kneel before no one.
Forcing out the Saskia.
Death holds no surprise.
And gets an Olgierd in addition to that. It's possible 2-rounding him is the correct play here. Interesting. Yeah, 2-rounding him could be our best strategy. We'd like to Philippa. Could Zoltan as well. Philippa ends up being better here though. Let's go ahead and play this Reaver Scout out now. There's no reason not to do this now. Just ends up being a dead card. We've got our eye on... There we go. That's much better. So those all end up getting smashed by this other Trebuchet, which is pretty great. We've got the Philippa for a Thunderbolt potion at the same time. Let's go ahead and try this. So we've got Thunderbolt potion on the melee row. If he forces us out here with some weird card like Scorch or Igni, then it's fun. We go into round 3, 1 card up on him, and we should end up winning that anyway.
This is elven land, Dwan, upon which your kind.
And now we're hitting great value off this Trebuchet. Unfortunately, it is only hitting for 2 points. But at the same time, we are able to, in conjunction with not just the Trebuchet, but the Philippa as well, we're able to get a lot of extra value out of him. Okay. Just go ahead and play this out then. That's fine. So his Druidville in this case is threatening 14 points.
I see you've thought about this.
Assuming he plays the other unit on that side of it. Yep. So, we go ahead and take that. Again, the deck is able to achieve a really, really good amount of power in ways that just are pretty hard for the current meta to deal with. Anyway, this has been my deck guide for my 2-strength Sergeant deck. The deck is actually really good right now. It's, like I said, a little bit anti-meta, but it comes out at a huge amount of power. Playing Reaver Scouts for 7 strength is insane. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this deck is able to muster out a really, really huge amount of power, able to have a good round 1 plan and a good round 3 plan at the same time. I'd highly recommend, if it looks like the kind of thing that might interest you. I'm actually very, very happy with this one. It's actually been performing pretty amazingly for me all day. These stats are a little deflated in terms of the play rates because I was playing in a different deck, trying out some slightly different variations that I wanted to try in a different deck, but the game, or rather the deck, ended up being very strong, and it looks to me like it is the strongest way of playing Northern Realms right now. I would, from the games I've played, I'd absolutely say that. Anyway, I will see you guys next time.